it's Ashley. Today I'm going to make a layout, and I'd already kind of started it, and was at this point where I thought I wanted some blue inky mess behind the photo there. So I have a piece of cardstock cut down to 8.5 by 11, and I got out my artist crayons. They're not wax crayons, they're water-soluble crayons, a lot like gelatos. This is just what I have. I've had them for a few years, and I just thought they would be fun to play with tonight. So I grabbed some dark and medium blue and just start kind of scribbling it on, because I think I want sort of a random splotchy blue blob kind of behind the photo. I don't really want it neat or precise or brush strokey. So I'm just sort of laying on some color and trying to get a little variation and some different sort of scribbly like marks in there so it doesn't look too perfect. And then I just have a paintbrush, just a cheap paintbrush from the dollar store, loaded up with some water. And you can see that the crayon is really, really soluble. It really just kind of solubilizes really easily into the water and makes a very nice, thick and highly pigmented, almost like paint. It's kind of like watercolor, but so much more pigmented than you would get and smooth than using watercolor. And I just sort of blob around the brush a little bit and squeeze out a little bit of that crayon pigmented water onto the page to make a kind of random painty mess. And then to speed up the drying time, because I just kind of wanted to get this page done, I grabbed my heat gun and dry it for a while. Probably took like 15 or 20 minutes. And so it's all dry, and you can still see there's some sort of scribbly marks behind it. And I grabbed the photo that I've already laid out with some of the sort of basics, transfer it all over from the plain cardstock I started out on to the painty cardstock. And so these leaves were cut with the cut files that I make for Cocoa Daisy. They're available to subscribers, and this is just some little kind of laurel leaf pieces. And there you can see a little detail and some paint, got a little bit of texture. So I wanted sort of a wreath shape underneath the photo, and I tucked in some of those gold dipped transparent leaves from Studio Calico. So this page, it should say, is about Ruby Sky and the names of the shapes that she knew around the time this photo was taken. And the shapes were moon, circle, square, triangle, and heart, just like the shapes that I cut out and have laid across the top of the layout there. And so I had this idea that I wanted them to kind of look kind of like childlike book, storybook, drawing, illustration kind of look. And I cut probably 2 or 3 of each shape out, trying out a few different things, and really couldn't figure out what I wanted. So that's actually what most of this layout was spent, the time that I spent on this layout was trying to figure out how to get those shapes on there. So while I'm thinking about that, I'm just kind of fiddling around trying to find other little pieces. I didn't want to add in any clouds or any other pieces from the that came in the kit this month. This was all stuff from my Cocoa Daisy kit for April. So I'm just trying out a few little pieces and moving the leaves around and just trying to get the placement of all these little bits just exactly where I want them, while still thinking about those shapes because I really don't know what to do with them. So while I was thinking, I cut the title out of some thin white cardstock out of a script font and lay it out. And I know that it's hard to see, but in person the tone and tone effect is really awesome and it's subtle. And the name of this layout is The Shape Namer Named Shapes, because I did another layout about her called The Ring Stacker Stacks Rings, so I thought it was just kind of fun. So I thought maybe the reason I didn't like the way the shapes at the top of the layout looked is because there wasn't enough color. So I tried using a little bit of this Hero Arts neon blue ink dauber to spread a little color on some of these layered paper pieces. And then I grabbed my tweezers because I just find it easier sometimes. So I'm not entirely sure that this is right. I don't really know if that color really did much, so I'm going to try layering some pieces together and see if maybe what's missing is just more. Maybe it needs more layers, more texture, more color, more pattern. I don't know. When I don't know what to do with the layout, sometimes I just leave it, and sometimes I just keep adding stuff. So I thought maybe it just needed a little bit more blue, so dab down a little more onto that circle. And I'm still not really convinced. So I dabbed more onto heart. I've just cut out a plain white cardstock, grabbed a crayon to sort of scribble on a little bit of an edge to give it a little more color and definition. Smudge a little with my fingers just to soften the line and make it look not so harsh and rough. And that's kind of better, but now there's like, it seems like the rest of them don't even have even less color now that that one is a little bit darker, so I try adding another outline piece underneath the circles. I've got like 2 or 3 circles stacked up there now. Put the title back. It's kind of better, but I'm still not really convinced. So I'm just going to kind of think about what to do. So I thought maybe I needed something else behind the top portion of the title and decided to try some of this Cocoa Daisy pattern paper. So I just thought maybe sort of a banner-like shape would be okay, and I didn't do a very good job the first time, so I trim it up, and I'm just kind of freehanding it. And if I like the way it looks, then I could go back and refine it and just like neaten it up. But just for like a tester piece, it didn't have to be neat or perfect, so I just wanted to see what the color sort of and shape look like. So of course I have to move everything off the page and stick it on there. And I actually really like the way just this one, like the one leaf with the circle and the other leaf maybe, looks on that sort of blue, I don't know, kind of crappy circle, half circle, curvy line piece of paper looks. But I think it's definitely not right once I start adding in all those other pieces. It was just, I don't know, it's like too busy and I don't know, it's just not very good. So even though I just keep adding in more and more stuff, it's still not getting any better. So yeah, just more thinking and trying things and thinking. So decide that I don't like it, take off everything again. I use my tweezers a lot because, and I really do like the way that looks just kind of plain. And I like the little script title on there, so I might actually go back and try this again. And then I tried rearranging the title because I thought maybe I just need to spread out differently. I like the title stacked up like that too. Maybe I should try that again sometime. And I also like the way just the white on white looks, so maybe I'll try that again sometime too. I don't know. That's kind of the nice thing about taking pictures of your work as you go along, and sometimes you can find other ideas that you can try. Kind of like scraplifting your own process. So I like the way those 2 hearts look stacked up, and I thought maybe a heart at the bottom, maybe they didn't all need to be at the top, because I kind of had this vision of this kind of fun wreath-like thing with all these little shapes tucked in. And I tried moving the leaves around, thinking maybe the color just needed to be arranged differently at the top of the page. Maybe I could tuck the shapes in other places, but nothing seems quite right. Maybe just 3 shapes at the top, give it a little balance, don't put too much up there. Maybe it needs more, because sometimes when you just keep adding stuff, it just gets better. I kind of like the way that looks, but it's kind of not quite right. I still don't really know what those shapes needed. Add on even more paper onto the moon. Maybe it's too busy, maybe it needs less pattern. I don't know. More thinking. So I'm going to take it all off again, try rearranging the title. Maybe it's better without the shapes, even though I really wanted to use the shapes. I don't know if you can tell or not, but those gold leaves, some of them are turned in backwards, so the gold isn't really reflective, and I really liked the difference in the texture. I thought that was kind of fun. So I have some more of these printable labels that come with the Cocoa Daisy kits, and I'm pulling out the colors that go with this page, so gray and blue. I think maybe some more labels around somewhere tucked in for more layering pieces might work. Maybe kind of anchor that title at the top a little bit, ground it a little bit more, and try moving the title on top or beside or to the side, and the heart on top and the heart underneath. And so when I don't know what to do on a page, I just keep moving stuff around. Sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't. Kind of back to thinking about putting that heart down there. And there it is. I decided to put it down there in the end. And then I remembered there's a gold foil paper, metallic gold paper in the kit. And I thought maybe instead of using those big shapes that were kind of awkward, I could try cutting up some little tiny gold ones. So I cut little triangles, and out of the paper, and I just sort of trimmed them out by hand and just sort of dropped them onto the top there. And I also cut out some squares, and then just because it was easier, I grabbed a hole punch and punched out the circles. And when I put confetti on a page, I just let it fall on the page, and kind of where it falls is where I end up gluing it down. And then I tried cutting out some little crescent moon shapes out of some more gold paper, and in the end I took them off because they looked like cut toenails, and that was really gross. So those did not make it onto the page. So I always fiddle around with the confetti just a little bit. I don't want to be too meticulous. I like it to sort of fall randomly, but I also want to make sure it's like all turned over the right way, and if a piece of confetti falls in, like, I don't know, the eye of the picture or something like that, I'm not gonna do that. I'm going to take off some of the big pieces that are in the way and start gluing some stuff down, because I'm pretty happy with the bottom, so before I drop the layout or ruin it, it's a good idea to glue it down. And because I didn't really want to move the leaves around, because I just liked them just exactly the way they were, I put some glue on top and then made sure the glue was going to be hidden behind the label, and grabbed a scrap of paper from my desk and just stuck it on top to kind of make a little glue sandwich. Make sure all the leaves are where I want them, because sometimes that glue, you have a little bit of working time with liquid glue, but it can set up pretty fast, so I don't want to rip anything. So there's the label on top, and I'm gonna stick the picture down with the ATG, which doesn't really stick to wet media very well, so I think you need something like some glue dots or something work a little bit better. Okay, so these are some glue dots, and I'm just going to use the glue dots to stick the leaves underneath the branches, and they're transparent, and I also don't want to glue them down completely, so I just used some little glue dots and just sort of hid the glue dots underneath the transparent bit of the leaf underneath the white die cut leaves, so you couldn't see the little glue dots, but the leaves still had a little bit of movement and stuff, because I don't want them stuck down completely flat. And same thing with those die cut leaves. I didn't glue down the ends, just in the center where they meet underneath the label, because I wanted some dimension and some movement and stuff. Okay, so to glue down the confetti, I used a pair of tweezers, and I put a little bit of liquid glue on a scrap of paper, and then just dipped them in the glue a little bit and glue them down. And I know it probably sounds like crazy, and maybe it looks crazy, but it's really not. It's really not crazy. It's really not. Okay, so they're all glued down, and to give that label a little bit of dimension, I am cutting up some foam core. I use it in picture frames and for, I don't know, dimensional dots and photographing layouts on, so I usually have some sort of scraps of foam core around somewhere that I use. It's a little bit thicker than pop dots, which is kind of nice sometimes, and in this case, the back of the clothespin was the foam core was bigger than the clothespin, so the clothespin didn't rest on the back of the page. Alright, so I'm pretty sure I want that heart to go there, but sometimes I like to think about things. So while I was thinking about it, I ran it through my sewing machine, and also the stack of moons behind the sewing machine, because I really did like the way those 3 moons looked. Out of all the shapes I made, the moons and the heart were the nicest. So there it is again, and I'm just going to grab some pictures, and I posted that one on Instagram. So now I have to figure out what to do with this moon, so I'm trying the label up there again, and I'm going to move the title around and stick the leaves around and try to figure out what I like the best. I still like the leaves on the end. I think it gives a little bit of balance, even if it does kind of move the color out to the sides a little bit, but that's okay. Alright, so then I thought I needed a little bit of something else behind there, so I heat embossed the little sun stamp that was in the main kit for April from Cocoa Daisy, and tried tucking it behind there. I kind of like the way it was. Maybe it's going to stick out behind the moon a little bit, kind of like a starburst kind of like pattern, but I don't know, it didn't really look quite right. I didn't really like it that much, but I tried moving the title around and moving the label from one side to the other, and just the moon and no moon, and try a few different things and think about it. And then I sort of narrowed it down to my top 3 faves, and took a picture of each one with my phone, thought about it for a bit, and took a little break and then looked at the pictures on my phone, and then I decided to go with just the moon. So there's the finished layout. Thanks so much for watching, and